The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now, your hosts, Jess Navarez, Aisha Morrison, Kelsey Charles, and Haley Sutton.
It has been too long since we heard that theme song. Welcome into the first edition of the 2023 season of Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Haley Sutton, Jess Navarez, Christy Stales, so excited to be here on this first episode of Girls Talk, Boys Talk, live from beautiful Oxnard, California. Ladies, this is so exciting. This is my first training camp. This is Jess, your first training camp. Christy, though, 31 years with this Dallas.
Wow. 31 on the road, 33 overall, the first couple back in the studio working things behind the scenes, but 17th time here in Oxnard, and it never gets dull. And on the sideline yesterday during the first practice, Stephen Jones was talking with some folks, and so I walked up and said, I just want to make sure that we're in the middle of a multi-year deal and we're still, he's like, oh yeah, we got more years. It's like, okay, that's the most important thing.
I mean, that is just incredible. And also, too, before we move any further, I want to congratulate you, Jess. You picked up an incredible job. She's now the Dallas Cowboys beat reporter for Pro Football Network. An awesome jump for you, a testament to your hard work. So I'm so excited to see what you'll do on that platform. What are you looking forward to at camp this week?
Oh, man, you know, I think what's interesting for me is I have come to training camp in years past as a fan, so to get to have that moment of, you know, me being in the stands watching the media work on the sideline and saying that's going to be me one day, to have that all really come to fruition and get the opportunity to take it and run with it is something that I'm really excited for. Overall, just, you know, getting my feet on the ground, experiencing it as our first camp has been really cool together. And then, of course, learning from Christy. We were talking for a long time yesterday. I got to meet some of Christy's family, which was really fun as well. So just being around here, it's such a blessing, and I'm so excited.
I know. I'm mostly excited for this weather because the fact that we're out here not
sweating. Not excited about that. That wasn't fun
But at least you're not sweating. At least you're not sweating.
True.
Girls don't sweat. We glow.
We sparkle.
There
That's
you go.
right, Christy.
Yes.
Let's get into some of the headlines from yesterday. The Cowboys held their first practice of the 2023 season, and almost immediately we saw some moving and shaking. Donovan Wilson had to be helped off of the field. Israel Mukuamu also left with an injury, came back to practice in street clothes. But right off the top, Donovan Wilson coming off of just freshly signing that new contract. Christy, I'll default to you first on this. When you think about what Dono has meant to that secondary, how excited people were to get him back here with the Cowboys, we still don't know the extent of the injury, but what kind of impact does that have?
Well, he's the thumper, right? And also brings an intensity and a spirit to everything. Really one of the unsung heroes in my mind of the entire defense, and just perfectly suited for what Dan Quinn is trying to do. But I saw the injury actually happen, and it was very early in practice yesterday. And what's disappointing is that the coaches and the league in general, it's a ramp up, right? There's no contact, there's nothing going on, and you still have these soft tissue injuries. And so it was a 7-on-7 drill. We were standing in the end zone, and Donovan was maybe about the 30 or 40 yard line, and I just saw him move laterally to his right, and he just went down, and awkwardly. And at first I thought maybe he had rolled his ankle, but he was obviously having trouble getting up, and so he kind of limped over to the sideline and sat down, and head athletic trainer Jim Maurer was tending to him. So I didn't know at the time it was a calf, but he was carted off to the locker room about 5 minutes later. So, yeah, as you say, we'll get more clarification from Coach McCarthy later, but hopefully he's able to come back for the regular season, but the preseason is going to be a wash. And Mukuamu with the hamstring, that meant that Marquise Bell was getting a lot of first-team reps at safety.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing about Donovan Wilson is his tackling abilities, right? So you're talking the tackle leader for the 2022 Dallas Cowboys defense with 101 tackles just in one season, which is incredible. And so to, not have that practice time in preseason and even just in training camp right now is going to be a little rough. And what you're going to see maybe is a later progression from Donovan Wilson. But again, we don't know for sure yet the extent of what's going on. As for Marquise Bell, I was very impressed with him. I was looking at my notes, and I was taking notes right after that had happened, and he was getting on it. He looked fast. He looked shifty. So a good way for him to step up and really take that year two jump for himself. And really, when your number is called, you got to be ready to go.
I am so excited for Marquise Bell. So I actually, a little bit of pub. You guys know I love to plug my stories here. I actually, over the summer, had an opportunity to get to know Isaiah Land a little bit better and talk about, him coming from Florida A&M and kind of playing with that chip on his shoulder. Well, no one else on this roster is a better representation of that than Marquise Bell. Exactly. Same situation, came from FAMU, had a lot of expectations, had some injuries last year. So I'm super excited for him to be able to, like you said, Jess, when his number is called, step up and be available, especially when, as of this moment, we don't know the extent of what Donovan Wilson's injury or Israel Mukwamu's status is going to be. So definitely a guy to keep our eye on. On the other side of the ball, though, another one of the position battles that we are monitoring is that wide receiver 4 spot. And I loved that when we got off of the bus, when we landed, or we got here to Oxnard, one of the first players we were able to speak to was Michael Gallup. And he spoke about how last year was tough for him mentally. He knew that his knee was just fine, but at the end of the day, it was the mental hurdle that he was trying to get over. We saw him out at practice yesterday. He had some great catches. He looks great. But then when you go to that next tier of whose name is going to be called up next, the obvious battle is Jalen Tolbert and Simi Fehoko. What did you guys see out of those two guys, and maybe a surprise player as well who could compete for time there?
Well, Simi had one bounce off, and that was picked. That was the Eric Scott interception, I believe, that went off of Simi. So not a highlight for Simi, but special teams are going to be a real key for him. And I want to mention Dennis Houston in here as well, because he was like Marquise Bell last year, and Isaiah Land, to your point earlier, an undrafted free agent. These guys that no one's heard of, but Dennis Houston was actually the starter last year at the regular season because Gallup was injured. But and I know we're focusing on the young guys, but what really stood out to me was how quick Brandon Cooks really is. Oh my gosh, he's so quick.
I tweeted a video, and this is no shade to Stephon Gilmore, because honestly, he's one of my favorite guys in this locker room. But watching Brandon Cooks in real time just absolutely torch that little sidestep and move down. And this is when first true practice, I'm like, holy cow.
That's him not even at full speed. That's what's crazy about it. And no, for me, I think when you're talking about Jalen Tolbert, he's a guy that has been very open about his struggles with learning the playbook last season. And I appreciate that out of him, that humble mentality of saying, hey, look, this is where I needed to correct my mistakes in the offseason. Here's what I've done this last year to make sure that when my number is called, I'm ready to go. You can see that Jalen Tolbert is hungry. He has just this attitude right now that you can just see it. And he was fast yesterday. He looked great. And another guy in that running that wasn't here, because congratulations to Kavonte Turpin for welcoming his baby. But Kavonte Turpin's another guy that I'm really excited to see eventually when he returns to camp. But family time first, because that little blessing is here now. Yeah. And so somebody else I wanted to mention. But as for Semi, I have no doubt that he's going to bounce back and have a great day today, a great rest of his camp. He's somebody that I got to talk to in the off season, and it was really interesting to talk to him about specifically how he's training. And it's really cool to learn is that some of these guys use pickleball as a way to train for their off season.
That's great. Pickleball's hard.
Yeah, it's good hand-eye coordination.
He had said that when he was having that matchup with Micah in the off season, that him and Dak had talked about the correlation in training for football and pickleball. It's actually helped a lot of these guys out. So I'm excited to see what pickleball has done for Semi Fehoko.
Yeah, and Dak Prescott is an investor in a pickleball team, so we're seeing some crossover there. I'd like to one more point though at wide receiver, because Jess, you were talking about Jalen Tolbert and learning the playbook last year, and there was so much thrown at him, learning multiple receiver positions. I thought it was interesting yesterday when Mike McCarthy in the press conference talking about Michael Gallup in particular was saying that, using him as more than the X. And so we're not going to see a lot in preseason. They're not going to show their hands too much, even in the practices here at camp, just because you don't want to show anything to your upcoming opponents.
Sure.
But with McCarthy calling the plays and with some of the nuances that they're doing with the offense this year and how they're going to deploy the wide receiving core, particularly Gallup, I'm very excited to learn what's going to happen.
Yeah, I just think that we just talked about this on our upcoming episode of Special Edition, the off-season player acquisition that this team has done this year. And Christy, I know we talked about this previously, where we kind of see, what the Cowboys were going to look like based on their off-season. And I think all of the players they've added, Brandon Cooks, some of these other guys have really made an impact. I was actually impressed with Jalen Marino-Cropper, another undrafted guy.
Yes.
I got a couple touchdowns of him. So it's definitely going to be an interesting battle to keep up with going forward. And there's a couple other position battles as well that we're going to talk about, but we're going to go ahead and take our first break here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk. When we come back, we'll talk running backs, and we'll also talk about where Zach Martin is. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
If you have been thinking about weight loss surgery, My Bariatric Solutions has made it easier for you to schedule your initial consultation from the safety, comfort, and convenience of your own home. You'll meet one-on-one with the bariatric surgeon over a private and secure video call. You'll learn everything you need to know about the options available and which procedure is best for you. If you've been considering weight loss surgery and are ready to take the first step, call My Bariatric Solutions today at 844-326-6266. That's 844-326-6266, or go to mybariatricsolutions.com.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Hi, I'm Danny McCray, Dallas Cowboys alumni player here with Smoothie King. And Smoothie King wants to ask you, what's that sound? That's the sound of you and everyone else absolutely loving new smoothie bowls from Smoothie King. And woo, me too. These smoothie bowls start with acai and pitaya and are handcrafted with fresh toppings like sliced bananas, sweet berries, crunchy Purely Elizabeth granola, and a savory peanut butter drizzle. New smoothie bowls, only at Smoothie King, the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys.
Welcome back to Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Haley Sutton, Jess Navarez, Christy Scales here with you. We're going to dive into some more of these positions, but first, let's go to Jess.
Well, come and get a free workout in during the summer sweat sessions at the Star, powered by the Dallas Cowboys Fit. Come out for a cardio dance party on Wednesday, August 2nd from 6 to 7 p.m. outside of the Tostitos Championship Plaza. Visit thestardistrict.com/events for more information. Summer sweat sesh, dance party, let's go.
I've seen them doing those out there, and as we know, out back in Texas, it's cooking outside.
It's
so
very
it's a
hot.
great
The
way.
sweat session is like walking on into your driveway
Exactly.
or going to your mailbox or
Don't have to do
taking your
much
dog
for
on a
that.
walk.
Yeah. But maybe it makes it a little more fun to dance
Absolutely.
a little bit,
If you're going to sweat, you might as well.
Might as well have fun with it,
Exactly.
right? Okay, ladies, let's get to the elephant in the room that has been kind of awkward this week. Zach Martin is not currently here at camp. He is holding out for some contract situation. Christy, I want to go to you first because help us understand where the issue lies here with Zach Martin and his contract and really why he's not here.
Well, he's $7 to $8 million less in base salary than comparable comparable guards. Lindstrom being highest paid there for Atlanta, and by the way, Chris Lindstrom's brother is one of
Alec.
is
He's so
Alec
great.
is one of Zach's teammates here. So when Zach signed his contract, it was tops, and now it's a little bit outdated. So certainly can't blame him for wanting to be compensated among the top guards in the league instead of top third. So totally understand that, but also understand the Cowboys' perspective from a player personnel and from cap management of a deal's a deal. So basically, for Zach Martin, it's worth $50,000 a day fine to make his point. And I see a resolution. I don't have inside knowledge that it's going to be this day or anything, but Zach Martin is the last Dallas Cowboy I would ever be worried about. Now, is it important that he's with his teammates? Does he, do you want to be here so that you can get some continuity along the line and all of that? But the good news is Terrence Steele is back.
Yes.
And the good news is while Zach is gone, you have guys like Josh Ball, and we'll talk more about him in a minute, having an opportunity to get some first-team reps. So it just means with Zach's absence that some of the younger guys are getting important reps with first-team, second-team that they wouldn't get otherwise if Zach were here.
The thing about this entire thing with Zach is that it's fair of him to want that contract. He is one of the best, if not the best guard in this league. So for Zach to, not be here, it does feel weird. It looks weird when he's not in that lineup, that's for sure. It looks like something's missing. But when you're talking about one of the two staples really in your offensive line because of the versatility and kind of the switching and moving around of this offensive line, it's your center, obviously, with Tyler Biadasz, and then Zach Martin. He has been your staple centerpiece of this offense. So, yeah, I think I would be a little more worried if the Dallas Cowboys haven't emphasized, the versatility within the offensive line if he wasn't here. But because they've already done so many different combinations with this offensive line, they're kind of ready for whatever combination comes first. I know I talked to Tyler Biadasz about this a lot, and I say, hey, is there continuity within versatility? Because it's just those two don't seem to mesh together, right? But he said, no, it actually makes me feel more well prepared because I know what the guy next to me is going to do at all times, no matter who it is, right? And so, again, this is just another practice rep. I think of how they're taking it without Zach Martin for those younger guys to step in there. But regardless, it is weird without Zach.
Yeah, and Haley, we saw during OTAs and minicamp that Josh Ball, who this is his third year, his rookie year a couple seasons ago was a wash because of an injury, but comes in as a tackle. But this offseason in OTAs and minicamp, he was getting work at right guard, second team right guard behind Martin. So the way that it worked yesterday, the first practice here at training camp was Josh Ball took first team reps at right guard between Tyler Biadasz and Terrence Steele, and then when second team came out, then Josh Ball moved over to the right and was backup right tackle behind Terrence Steele. Last year, Ball played in 13 games, mostly special teams. The most he only played 41 offensive snaps, and the majority of that was in the game in December against Houston when he filled in for Terrence Steele. That was the game, of course, where Terrence hurt his knee. So talking to Josh yesterday, it's like, hey, I've been doing it all off season, so I feel comfortable, and mainly it's just coming out here, getting your timing down, and he felt like the communication was good, but he said that was a carryover from what had been happening in the off season, so we felt good about that.
So much of what training camp has looked like so far, and this is probably a trend that has been happening in the past, but it's all about these guys taking advantage of their opportunities. And so I think for Josh Ball, it's hard because you mentioned like the first year didn't work out with him with an injury, limited snaps, all of that stuff. But the best part about this is that this is a new season and we can have a different perspective on some of these players. I love that you brought up Terrence Steele as well, because I've been wanting to talk about Terrence Steele and how excited I am for him to come back. And I want to explain, for those of you who don't understand, he had an ACL and an MCL tear against that Houston team in December. And he's already back clear.
Incredible.
I mean, for that, and when you think, too, like, this is not a wide receiver or, even a running back. This is an offensive lineman who worked his butt off. I mean, from our office, we watched him out there on the field every day working to get back. And then on top of that, when we landed, the first person who was out on this field on Monday when we got here was Terrence Steele. And he was just jogging, doing some light movements, but just getting his body loose. It's incredible to see what he's done. So I didn't want us to continue without saying how incredible this recovery has been for Terrence Steele.
Yeah, and one other thing about the offensive line is that with the new position coach, Mike Solari, he comes in, obviously it's a fresh perspective, and so even though he's been around the league forever. And last time he was at Cowboys training camp, it was in Thousand Oaks as a member of Tom Landry's staff. So Solari's been around a long time in the league. But I was talking with Josh Ball about this yesterday, and then like with Biotish and some of the other linemen, Tyler Smith, back during OTAs. When you have a new position coach, from a player's perspective, is it good that they don't have, the coach doesn't have a preconceived notion about you, that you can, it's just kind of like a fresh slate? Or is it better to have, a guy who's been in your corner that you've been with for a year or two or three or more?
Great question.
And so of course, when you have a new coach, no one's going to say, "Oh, I'd rather have the old coach." but they said no. The point is that Solari has been watching so much film of them going back so long that they feel like he knows exactly what they can do. But yet, it is the clean slate part of it that they get to show, with the hard work and putting in the study time. And the main thing is just knowing your keys and knowing your assignments once you're out here. But Solari is one of several new position coaches. And one thing, when you've been coming to camp for many years or standing on the sideline during preseason games for a long time, no, it's fun to see the dynamics because every year is different. And it's not just the players with rookies coming in or a guy like a Diggs or Tony Pollard, even Terrence Steele now, going from the young pup to the middle-aged or older guy in the room that the young guys are looking to. But to see that interaction between especially the coaches new to the staff and even the veteran players, that dynamic, that's what's really fun to watch.
And it was cool talking to Tyler Biotish too. He's a guy that he doesn't seem very outgoing, and then as he opens up and breaks out of his shell, he's really fun to talk to, and he gives you a lot of really good insight and information. And so something that I had talked to him about was his off season. What did you guys do? How's it going? And he said that this off season was really a time for everybody to make that connection with each other, which I don't think is very different from any other off season. But for me, it's just been noticeable in all aspects of this team, right? So we saw the pictures populating or circulating of Dak Prescott and the wide receiver group and the tight ends, but also like the offensive line guys have been bonding and spending their time together as well too. And I mean, all of this team has taken their time. I'm talking their off time, their one time of the year that they really don't have to be around football to get closer with each other. So that way, as we know, like when you have chemistry in whatever aspect you're doing, it just makes things better. So very much so for this podcast. We're all friends outside of this podcast, and I think that reflects same thing with these guys. They have each other's back. They're going to do what they need to do for their teammate because outside of it, they're friends and they've made that connection.
Let's pivot to the running back position because I love that you talked about Tony Pollard in there. Obviously, it's exciting to see that he's been fully cleared and, really stepping in and owning that wide receiver, the running back one position. We had a chance to speak to him after practice yesterday. He was much more chatty than he normally is. I think with Tony and Zeke last year, the dynamic was Zeke was the personality and Tony was kind of the quiet guy. But even in that first media scrum that we had with him after practice, you could tell that he's trying. He said, I want to be a more vocal leader. I want to be the guy that these younger guys can look into. And it's always crazy to me with Tony Pollard because I still, even though like his production and all of that doesn't reflect this, but every time I see him, I'm like, oh, Tony, he just got here. And he hasn't. He's been here for quite some time now. And so now this is the obvious next step for him to be running back one. But just really, really good to see him out at practice after suffering that broken ankle against the 49ers.
Yeah, and cool that Zeke texted everybody.
Yeah, that was great.
Oh, I love that. No, Christy and I were standing right there where we saw him getting some work on the resistance bands before really everything had kicked off for practice. So that was cool to see that, again, you're talking about a guy that you just saw what happened in his absence last year after, the injury in the game against the 49ers. No, we don't want to talk about it, but what we can talk about is his resilience to come back to this team. And somehow, some way, I think he looks faster. So I don't know. It was really exciting to see him doing his lateral drills. That was something that I made sure I wanted to stand right there and watch close up how good he was looking. And again, fast. He looks great. He's moving great. He's very fluid with his movement. So I'm just really excited for Tony Pollard to come into this season, knowing you are that guy and you are that guy for those younger guys in the room, because that's a very young room and they're very impressionable. And you can see something that I like to notice is, you had Deuce Vaughn, Malik Davis, Rico Dowdle, Hunter Lipke that was just watching everything Tony Pollard was doing. They study him, and he is leading by example. So maybe he's not the most vocal guy, but standing right there on that sideline, I can tell you they were studying how he was doing things. And then they have little sidebar conversations with him after the fact. So incredible stuff, and I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, and I'm having fun watching Deuce Vaughn because I didn't know that you could be 5'3" and
Mighty
play
Mouse.
in the NFL.
Mighty
No, he's
Mouse.
not 5'3". He's listed at 5'6". But that's in high heels standing on a speed bump. But 5'6". No, he is going to be. He's already a darling of the fans and just such a great story and such a great career at Kansas State and just a dynamic player. But I can't wait until Saturday when it's the really big crowd here and it's the opening ceremonies. And I just think that Vaughn is going to be like Kevontae Turpin last year, that once we get to preseason and they get all the action because you're resting the starters, he's just going to be the darling of camp in preseason.
My favorite thing about Deuce Vaughn is that he doesn't take any of this, to heart. I'm too small, I'm too this, I'm too that. Like, he just gets out there and he plays ball with a chip on his shoulder, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. So I love that you brought
but
that up.
he's relatable, because we all look out there and say, man, he could do. But I think the way that you say with that kind of attitude, being able to handle it, having your dad in the NFL and being around it, I think that's very helpful. It's just like some of these young guys that come into the league and they're from larger programs, college programs, where there's a lot of media or a lot of expectation or a big fan base or 40, 50,000 people showing up for a spring game. I think that sometimes those guys come in better prepared. Now, it's up to the person individually, their headspace and their attitude. But I think some of these bigger programs or coming up maybe a family member in the league, you're just exposed to it. So it just kind of gives you a leg up on what to expect.
Exciting stuff.
Yep.
I'm going to get you to that. We got to go
pause.
to break.
Taking
We'll
a
get back
timeout,
to it.
guys.
When we come back, we'll wrap things up here on our first episode of Girls Talk, Boys Talk, and we'll talk about who we're most excited to see out here. This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
If you have been thinking about weight loss surgery, My Bariatric Solutions has made it easier for you to schedule your initial consultation from the safety, comfort, and convenience of your own home. You'll meet one-on-one with the bariatric surgeon over a private and secure video call. You'll learn everything you need to know about the options available and which procedure is best for you. If you've been considering weight loss surgery and are ready to take the first step, call My Bariatric Solutions today at 844-326-6266. That's 844-326-6266, or go to mybariatricsolutions.com.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com is one of the most trusted ways to buy, sell, and trade crypto. Whether you're always on the go or stay closer to home, Blockchain.com is just a few taps away. Put the power of crypto in your pocket, so no matter where you are, you can trade on your terms and build a crypto portfolio to fit your life. For crypto pros, rookies, and anyone in between, Blockchain.com makes it easy to own a piece of the future. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team.
Welcome back to our final few minutes here on Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Jess Navarez, Christy Scales with you. Jess has a read for us.
All right. Well, the schedule is set and limited tickets for the 2023 Dallas Cowboys season at AT&T Stadium are available now. Don't miss your chance to see your Cowboys live at AT&T Stadium, where they host the NFC East rival Eagles, Giants, Commanders, plus the Jets, Patriots, Rams, Seahawks, and the Lions. Visit DallasCowboys.com/tickets or SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing provider of AT&T Stadium.
Tickets, man.
Get on it.
Get
Get on it. Don't allow those Eagles fans to get into AT&T Stadium, guys. Get on it right now. Right now. You're not doing anything. You're watching this. Get on it.
All right. We got a few minutes here. I did want to start the block off by, because we touched on it briefly. Trayvon Diggs, though, did get signed to an extension, so we're excited to see him around for the next 5 years.
It's a party in Dallas.
It's a great contract as well. 5 years, $97 million, up to $100 million, though, in incentives. So congratulations to Trayvon Diggs on that, and congratulations to this defense on getting to have him stick around. But last few minutes here, we've talked a lot about some of these position battles. I want to know who you guys are most looking forward to seeing, or what you're most looking forward to here in this 2023 training camp.
My position is the same as it was exactly a year ago. I want to see if we can kick a field goal. Seriously.
Facts.
I don't care if it's Vizcaino. I don't care if it's Aubrey.
What if
I
it's
don't
Haley?
care. Haley is a soccer player, just like Brandon Aubrey. So
give her a chance.
if we're doing 5'3" running backs, if we're doing soccer players for kickers, I say
I will sit down with
that's
Haley.
it.
I'll
Haley
sit
can be
down
a
with the
kicker.
Joneses. We'll work out
We're
the
done.
contract
We're
situation.
set.
But
I'm not opposed to that.
But I mean,
I don't need $97 million to make it on the roster.
she'll do it for $96 million.
But don't be too much of a diva, Haley.
But seriously,
oh my
I think it's obviously an open competition between Tristan Vizcaino and Brandon Aubrey, but oh my gosh, this is like last year coming in where you had the rookie Jonathan Garibay and then the, Liram Hairulahu, and a couple weeks into camp they end up signing Brett Maher. That's not going to happen this year because Maher has signed with Denver as of last week, but I think that's the number one question of camp is what are we going to do, because the NFL, the games are so razor thin close that every point counts. And the thing about Maher is from 50 plus,
money.
It's like money. So if you got to the 35 or the 38 yard line, even the 40, that was 3 points. So I'm worried about kicking.
And as a safety blanket, too, to piggyback off of that, is Maher was your top scorer on your team last year with, I believe it was 137 points. So, again, you need a kicker. And, Christy, you stole mine. You already knew where my heart was with that. So I'm going to go tight end room because that tight end one spot is wide open for grabs. Although I think Jake Ferguson has a bit of an advantage of this one. He looked great yesterday. He looked fast and he looked fresh. So I'm excited to see this younger group really mold and to see how those four horsemen come together. Sean McCune had a good day yesterday. He was somebody that I was impressed with. So again, you never count these guys out. I'm excited to see, more of them, but more than anything, I'm excited to see what the start of their line looks like because they're young. and they have years to come. So I'm gonna go with the tight end room.
I piggybacked off of a conversation with Kyle that he was having with Jake Ferguson after practice yesterday, because the first thing that I noticed about Jake, number one, his leg sleeve is healed beautifully.
Yeah, looks great.
So love that tat. But also I noticed as well, he looks different. You know, he looked a little bit bigger, but also a little smaller, if that makes sense. And so not Patrick, but Kyle was having a conversation with him afterwards, and I caught the tail end of it, and he was saying how he had to change his diet completely. He said he had to have a conversation with his mom, because back home, you know, his mom, we know how moms are. They want to cook for you.
Yep.
He said 7-layer dip is a staple in his house.
Yum.
And he had to step back from the 7-layer dip, and you can tell he's trimmed off a lot of that, what he described as baby fat. So
Mama Ferguson can share that 7-layer dip with us over here.
She can give it to us instead of to Jake.
Just saying.
I am most excited about this rookie class, and I love the rookies because they are impressionable, as you mentioned, and this is the time to me where you get to really see who they are. And I kind of latch on to them because, you know, I'm one of the first people who really gets to meet them. I was there when we picked up Mozzie Smith from the airport. We just drove down to Arp, Texas to shoot a feature piece with DeMarvion Overshone. And I've done some good stuff with Viliami Fajoko. So a lot of these younger guys, I love getting to talk to them, and I love getting to see where they end up, where they put their energy into. So you saw it yesterday, Eric Scott, right place, right time with that interception, but he made the play. He made the play when it mattered most, and so I love seeing those little moments with those rookies.
And in case you're wondering, I did talk to Mozzie Smith in the offseason. I said, Mozzie, what are you looking forward to the most at camp? And he looked me dead in the eye, and he said, hitting somebody. And so I said, all right, Mozzie, you do what you got to do, man.
They're definitely
glad it's not me.
They've got great personalities, and I think to Mike McCarthy's point in the press conferences, that both of them that he's had, the emphasis has been on bridging the gap between veterans and younger guys, because a lot of this team is going to be younger guys this year. So I'm excited to see what some of these rookies and the second-year guys are going to do. We got another practice coming up later today. We'll hear from Mike McCarthy in about 2 hours or so we'll have more information. But that's going to do it for our first episode of Girls Talk, Boys Talk here from Oxnard, California. We will have Aisha Morrison back on the show. We have not forgot about our X's and O's girl. She is with us. She's just not with us here at camp. So we're so excited to get her back in the mix. But for Christy Scales, Jess Navarez, I'm Haley Sutton. We will see you next time on Girls Talk, Boys Talk.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!